What's up, Eagles Nation? Yeah, we're still licking our wounds from last Sunday. How in the world? That not just the officials, but how the hell does people in New York can't see that was a fumble? But again, it's over. It happened. It's done. Okay. Anyhow, the big news obviously today was Carson going down with back spasms, going to miss this game. More than likely, might be the rest of the season. With the fact that the Panthers and Vikings both lost this week, the Eagles are still not mathematically out of it. They still have a shot, an outside shot at the playoffs. They got to win out. And oh, by the way, here comes Nicky Six, the Super Bowl 52 MVP, coming back for the last stretch of the season, where he kind of did that last year, didn't he? And the Rams were involved too. Okay. Listen, I know that there's a lot of different schools of thought here in Eagles Nation about Carson or Nick. I will say this, and I will always give Nick Foles credit. I will always remember fondly what he did last season, helping us win our first Super Bowl title in franchise history, and we all were able to experience that great moment. And I will never take anything away from him for that. But listen, Nick Foles is not a franchise starting quarterback. And I say that with, again, all due respect to the man. He just isn't. He has limitations. If he starts over time with your team, season after season, you will see them. You have to run a certain kind of offense with him, the RPOs and everything. Now, if a defense adjusts to that, I think that takes away a lot from what he brings to the table. And again, I say that with all due respect. Listen, Nick Foles is great when he's in a small sample size. If you get large sample size, season after season after season of him as a starting quarterback, you will see these issues because defenses will adjust. And will he be able to adjust? Will he be able to, play a different type of style? Again, he's not a mobile quarterback. He can't really keep plays alive with his feet. He's really good in the pocket. He's decisive with his passes. He's made some big passes over the years. Look, when you outduel Tom Brady in a Super Bowl, okay, you're doing something pretty good. And again, I will always give him credit for that. I will always respect the man for that. You can never take that away from him. Every time you see the footage in NFL films of the Eagles winning the Super Bowl, it's Nick Foles. Carson's on the sidelines there, so it's Nick Foles winning it. Give him all the credit in the world for that. But again, going forward, is he the starting quarterback of this team? No, Carson Wentz is. Carson Wentz is a franchise quarterback. Now listen, I know Carson has not had the greatest of years. He was coming back from a knee injury, now with the back spasms. He's got to get himself healthy. He's got to get himself right. I think next season you're going to see better play from Carson. I think we're going to see what we have to see next season. When he has his full off season, he's not rehabbing a knee. He's out there with his teammates, OTAs, preseason, off season, the training camps and everything. You have full off season with him coming into. And listen, last season, let's look at the history. When they drafted him, they still had Sam Bradford here, so he was not the starting quarterback. Up until they traded Sam Bradford just before the season started. That season after his rookie year, he was given a full season as a starting quarterback, off season as a starting quarterback. OTAs, practicing with his teammates, even new teammates like Alshon Jeffrey and Torrey Smith. He was given the full plate as a starting quarterback going into that following season, and he would have been the MVP of the league if he didn't get hurt in LA trying to score a touchdown. This offseason, he was rehabbing. Again, no excuses, but he's rehabbing. He's not completely in there. Doesn't start the season as a starting quarterback. Doesn't even play the first few games. Some say he came back too quick. We can argue that, but the fact of the matter is Nick Foles was a starting quarterback to start the season for the first two weeks. And Carson comes in against the Colts in week 3, and the rest is history. The season, his numbers-wise aren't horrible, but they certainly aren't what they were a year ago. The decision-making process, the holding onto the ball too long, getting stripped too many times, a lot of things he does have to get better at. And one of the things he has to get better at is in the pocket. I think he's a very good outside-the-pocket quarterback running. He gets away from pressure. Even with the knee, he's getting away. He's keeping plays alive. He's making things happen. He's kind of Houdiniing it a few times there against defenders. But he's got to get better at inside the pocket and making those decisive reads. He's got to see the field better. I think he is very tunnel vision to Zach Ertz, and Zach Ertz has had a phenomenal season. I hope he still sets the single-season record for tight ends and receptions, which he still could do even with Nick Foles throwing him the ball. Again, phenomenal year for number 86. But there are other weapons on this team, and that's something that Carson's got to get better at going forward. And I don't think there's any argument there. I mean, he's got to see the field better. He's got to be a little more accurate also with the deep passes. And, when there's receivers, look, no quarterback's always going to hit every target. It's just not going to happen. Tom Brady doesn't do it. Aaron Rodgers doesn't do it. Russell Wilson doesn't do it, right? Mahomes doesn't do it. I mean, you can throw any quarterback. You're never going to have a perfect game, okay? But more times than not, we see Carson overthrowing wide open receivers, not hitting – he's got to get better at that. He was good at it last season, when he was an MVP candidate. This season, again, coming back from the injury, and I'm not using that as an excuse. I don't want to make excuses for the man. But at times, he has looked very erratic. And I think the play calling's been bad too. Doug's got to get better too. Make no mistake. I mean, look, it goes hand in hand. All right, you have a coach, you have a quarterback. It's got to work. It's got to go hand in hand. They also have to run the ball a little more. They have to find that bell cow back this offseason. I would love to see them get Le'Veon Bell. I would love to see them make a trade for Shady McCoy. Those running backs fit this offense perfect. And I think you have a chance to go out and get one of them, maybe more easily Le'Veon Bell if you got to throw money at him. But I think he's a type of running back that works well in this offense. People can say what they want about him being a bad guy. But you know what? At the end of the day, he's a generational running back, and he's a guy that can help this team big time if they use him. See Golden Tate. Okay? So they have to get better. It's across the board. It's got to be better. The coaching staff's got to be better. I know DeFilippo was released with the Vikings as their OC. I don't think he's going anywhere this season. I think in the offseason you're going to see probably the Eagles move on from Grow rather, and I would not be shocked if they bring back DeFilippo to be the OC, and I think that would be the right move. As much as I would love to see Jim Schwartz go on as a defensive coordinator, I can see them retaining him and using the injury bug as the reason. When you have practice squad guys playing quarterback and McLeod got hurt, the linebacker situation, and look, it doesn't take away from the fact that the defensive scheme is not good, and that even when they had guys in there. I mean, you still couldn't stop 4th and 15 in overtime versus the Titans. You still blew a 17-point lead at home to the Panthers, and it's not like the Panthers are any great shakes right now. So those are losses that, were there other plays that should have been made during those games? Sure, but your defense still let them up. I mean, you gave up plays, and you had guys healthy playing those games. So it is what it is, but I could see, as much as I wouldn't be for it, because I want him out. I want him in that defensive scheme out the door. But I could see them retaining it and using the injuries as the reason. I don't think it's right. I'm not saying if I was in charge of it, I wouldn't use that as an excuse because the defensive scheme is cracked. The picket fence defense on 3rd and 4th and long, it doesn't work. But not getting enough pressure on the quarterback, I mean, they could throw injuries in there too. I mean, they lost Barnett. So, they can throw injuries left and right, but, other teams have injuries too, and their defenses still play. So, it is what it is. We'll see how this team finishes the next 3 games. We'll see how this defense, even with the injuries, plays the next 3 games. I think they played well last week against Dallas for the most part. Yeah, they gave up some plays to Cooper, but I think for the most part, look, they hung in there. With all the injuries they had, they gave up 6 points in the first half of the game. And really 3 of those 6 points were credited because Carson fumbled the ball, late in the first half. And Dallas makes a 62-yard field goal. I mean, you're not going to see that all the time. But that happened. The second half of the game, listen, they were holding Dallas for 3 quarters. The fourth quarter comes along, and eventually those injuries are going to catch up to you in the secondary. And damned if they did in that fourth quarter when Amari Cooper had the back-to-back, drive, had those touchdowns, 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. And then on the most luckiest damn play you're going to see, the deflection caught for a touchdown. But those are the breaks. And they got that. They made that play, and they won the game. I would get rid of I honestly, and I've said this before, I would get rid of Jim Schwartz, but I can see this team, again, retaining him because of the injuries. I can see that. I hope it doesn't happen, but I wouldn't be shocked. And as far as OC is concerned, I think they will bring DiFilippo back this offseason to be their OC. And I think that would be a good move. Now, look, there's been a lot of talk about, well, why did they get rid of Frank Reich and DiFilippo this offseason that they shouldn't have done it? We have to remember we're a fan base here for the first time. We're dealing with it. Okay, for the first time, we're the defending Super Bowl champ. And when you're a defending Super Bowl, when you're a team, not just a Super Bowl champion, but a team that has success the year before, there are OCs, coordinators that are going to be very coveted around the league and in college. I mean, how many times do we see a coordinator in the NFL go to take a head coaching job in college? It happens. Happens a lot. The Eagles certainly had the right not to let Frank Reich and DiFilippo get away, but you know what? That if they did that, that would make them a bad franchise. That would be bad ownership. That would look very poorly across the league. If you're not going to give one of your coordinators an opportunity to be a head coach in the league, that looks bad. And other people see this, and how many times do we see it? Obviously, it happens to the Patriots all the time, but they just have that system in place where you got the hoodie and Brady. And it never seems to matter who else they look. Listen, that is a once-a-lifetime thing. What they got going on in New England, that's a once-a-lifetime thing. You do not see that very often, okay? But how many times do we see this, even to the teams that lose in the Super Bowl or lose in one of those AFC or NFC title games? The coordinators are plucked from those teams by teams that are still, trying to rise up, by, teams that are trying to rebuild. You're going to see them trying to pull from teams that have success. It happens all the time. Now, the Eagles went on and won the Super Bowl last year against the Patriots of all teams. So, of course, the coordinators on that team was very sought after by other teams. Frank Reich had an opportunity to be a head coach with the Colts. They're a team with still a relatively young quarterback, a lot of young players. And Frank Reich obviously did a great job here as an assistant to Doug Peterson with Carson Wentz, even with Nick Foles, with this offense. So he was very sought after. And the Colts wanted to get him. And the Eagles, listen, the Eagles did what other teams do. They gave him up to be a head coach in the NFL. It's the highest position you can have in the NFL as far as a coach. And if the Eagles didn't do that, they would look very poorly across the league. And other people wouldn't want to come here. So, hey, look, I mean, for what it's worth, and I know we only have the one Super Bowl to hang our hat on, this organization, since Jeffrey Lurie's taken over, has been one of the most well-run organizations in the league. And I understand we only have one Super Bowl, but look at all the success this team's had since Jeffrey Lurie's come here. And you talk about, all right, we'll forget about the Chip Kelly years, but more years than not, they're in the playoffs. They've been, at least 6 or 7 NFC title games. I believe 6 NFC title games, 2 Super Bowls. They won one, they lost one. But they have had a lot of success since he's been here. They've made a lot of good decisions. There's been some personnel decisions that were good and some that weren't so good. Players that were good and some that weren't so good. But for the most part, this has been a winning franchise since he's been the owner. And Jeffrey Lurie's been a big part of that. And they've held how they do things to a very high standard. And across the league, they're held at a very high standard. This is a very well thought of organization around the league. And that's something we should be proud of as fans. Because you know what? As a fan of a team, all you want is your team to have success. And more times than not, the Eagles give us a chance at successful seasons since Jeffrey Lurie's been the owner of this team, including the most highest success you can have last season. Yeah, it took a while. But the end of the day, they won one, and I would imagine they'll be in the hunt again. I think this has just been one of those years with the injuries and them not knowing how to be a defending champion, the inconsistencies. Look, a lot has to get better. Doug has to get better with the coaching. I mean, you talk about having a quarterback coming off, and I said this last week, a knee injury and now with back injuries, and you're running him on a 3rd and 1. I mean, on an option play. And if they knew he had back injuries, why in the world aren't they running the ball a little more? Even though they don't have that bell cow back, not for nothing, when Josh Adams was given his opportunities last week, I know he got stuffed on 4th and 1, but one of their first drives, he was running hard, he was running well, and then they went away from him. It's like, see, this is where Doug's got to get better as a coach, and maybe if you get DiFilippo back as an OC, maybe it gets a little better, but it's got to get better. You can't just have it one way. You can't just pass all the time. You have to have a running game to set things up for the passing game. It goes hand in hand. You have to have balance. And for the most part this season, they haven't had balance. And the funny thing is when you see them having balance, it's a win. regardless of the opponent, when they have balance on an offense, when they're running the ball and they're having success and it leads to the passing games, it's a win more times than not. Over the past, how many years now with Doug here. He's got to get better at finding that balance. Again, this is why I'm hopeful they go out and they get Le'Veon Bell this offseason. It's almost like it forces their hand. Hey, I know that Golden Tate came here. They didn't quite figure out how to use him. I'll tell you this. If you get Le'Veon Bell this offseason and you don't use him, I don't know what to tell you at that point. But Carson Wentz out possibly for the rest of the season. That means we get to see Nick Foles again for the rest of the season. And, he's given an opportunity. Who knows how the rest of the season can go? Again, they're in a tough spot this week against the Rams. Rams coming off a loss last Sunday night in Chicago. Pretty much got manhandled offensively in that game by a very good defense. And look, how Chicago built that defense, how you see Dallas build this defense, that's how the Eagles have got to do this. Again, I've said this before, I'll say it again, they got to get better in the draft. They must hit in the draft. And for most part, more players than not, they haven't, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. I do believe they hit in Barnett as a pass rusher, but too many of these picks just are not panning out, and you got to get better. Must get better. It's got to be an organizational philosophy to get better across the board drafting, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. It's got to be better. And again, that's the only way you're going to have success. You can bring in all the free agents you want. You can make all the trades you want. If you don't draft well, you're screwed. I mean, and that's just period, end of story. Even though the Patriots are never drafting very high, they make the most of their picks. They make those picks count. Even though they're late in the rounds, they still make them count. That's one of the reasons why they're still on top every year. Or more years than not, they have a chance to win a Super Bowl. It's not just, it's the system there with Hoodie and Brady, but they draft very well. They make good decisions. And when you do that in an organization, more times than not, you're going to succeed. And time will tell what happens with them this season. They're going to have to do it on the road this year in the playoffs, but, we'll see. Never count them out until they're out. I'd like to see them, Super Bowl with the Patriots not in it this year. It would be good. Give us some new blood in there in the AFC. But anyhow, the big topic of discussion this week, what do you do about Carson? Do you pay him? Do you not pay him? I've heard this, and this is the school of thought I believe in. I believe you do. Listen, he is going to be the franchise quarterback here again. This team's success over the next number of years depends on the coach, the coaching staff, and on Carson Wentz. That's where it is. People can say they want Nick Foles to be the quarterback going forward. I don't believe in that. Carson Wentz has got to be the man. He is the guy they drafted years ago. I think we've seen more good from him than not. I know there's injury concerns. There's been inconsistencies. There are things he has to get better in his game. He's still a young quarterback. I've seen a lot of young quarterbacks that go on to be Hall of Famers have these kind of struggles throughout the first few years of their careers. Okay, so let's give him time. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Coming off a big injury this season with the knee, now the back. He's got to get better. He's got to get healthy. But there are things he needs to improve on. But do you extend his contract this season, this offseason, or into next season? I say you do. But I look at it this way. And I look at some of these other contracts that got extended when a player was still a young player in the league. A lot of these players didn't get really paid until their following contract. Aaron Rodgers, the first deal he was given, was a pretty significant deal, but was nowhere near what he just was given recently, okay? So I think you could extend Carson Wentz, and you could give him a favorable contract that will not cripple you as a franchise, that you won't be able to go out and pay other players. I wouldn't give him the Jimmy Garoppolo deal. I wouldn't give him the Aaron Rodgers deal. Maybe not even the Matt Stafford deal, but I would give him a favorable deal, something that's still going to give him a bump, something that's going to be good. And for him to be here. But, again, I don't think you have to break the brand. I don't think you have to bring back the Brinks trucks this time. The next one, if he continues to play, continue to go, his career escalates and he continues to go to a high level, he's in a Super Bowl, wins a Super Bowl, even if he does, this team's having success and they're, one of the better teams in the NFC and contending for Super Bowl titles for the rest of this contract, absolutely. Then, yeah, you got to, you got to bring back the Brinks trucks, but I don't believe you have to do that for this particular contract, the contract after his rookie contract. Again, they're going to give him money, but I don't think it's going to be anywhere like you're seeing some of these other deals in recent seasons with some of these other quarterbacks. And I don't think he's warranted that just yet. Again, I believe he's the future. I believe he's a franchise quarterback. I believe he's a leader. But I don't think you have to, pay him, crazy money with this contract. I think the contract after that, that's the one where, if his career takes off the way we're all hoping it is, and make no mistake, Eagles Nation, we got to hope that he's the guy, okay? Because it's very hard to find a quarterback, all right? You don't always hit in the draft, and, they're not always out there. I mean, the Redskins have been waiting a long time to get one, so you can't always – it's hard. So, for all the complaining we're doing and everything, we got to hope that Carson's the guy. We got to. Because I don't think you have any other options. It's not Nick Foles. Nick Foles is not a guy that's going to be here, be the franchise quarterback for a number of years. Again, give him all the respect in the world for winning that Super Bowl last year. But it was a short sample size, small sample size. Over a long period of time, no. He's not. Even through the first 2 weeks of this season, he's not. They beat the Falcons. The defense made a play on fourth down. Against Tampa, he was not playing the way he was playing in the playoffs last season. Particularly, I'll say this, since the second half of that Falcons game in the divisional round and on. And he went on a run for all time. For all time. That run that we went on with him last season for all time. But over how many years, we're not going to have that from him. You're going to have that. You're going to have more of an opportunity with that with Carson Wentz. And I know at times this season we've all been frustrated, but we do have to remember he's still a young quarterback coming off a bad knee injury. Now with the back, he's probably fighting through the back injuries this year and whatnot. So give him the benefit of the doubt. I don't want to call this season a mulligan. I really don't. But I will call it a give him the benefit of the doubt type of season. They'll probably give him a bump in pay, extend the contract this offseason. Again, nothing that's going to cripple them from being a player on other players and other, like maybe a Le'Veon Bell or something like that this offseason and bring in some more help for the defense. And remember, you're going to have to pay other guys too if you want to retain guys. There's going to be a lot of guys out this offseason, but you're going to have to replenish that too. So I don't believe they're going to give Carson Wentz the type of contract that's going to cripple them. And the Eagles over the years have been very smart about that too. So I do expect that they will extend his contract and give him, a bump in pay. But I don't think it's going to be that type of Jimmy G money, that Aaron Rodgers money, that Matt Stafford type of deal. I don't think you're going to see that right away. I think that's the next deal they give him down the road. And I think that's fair. But let's not forget, listen, the guy was, again, when he had a full off season and everything, a year ago he was an MVP candidate. He was having a season of the ages, a franchise record in touchdown passes on his last play of his career. Of the season. The career, right? The last play of his season last year, he set the franchise record in touchdown passes. He would have been the MVP if he didn't get hurt of the league. So I think you saw Carson after when he had a full offseason knowing he was going to be the starting QB of this team. I think you saw what he's capable of a year ago. Now, one season a quarterback does not make. You do have to be consistent. And I know he was coming off the injuries and all this year. Listen, last week, not for nothing, the man brought them back twice from a touchdown deficit in the fourth quarter. He even had to overcome one of the worst, all-time worst offensive pass interference calls known to man to come back and bring them on that touchdown drive to tie the game again late in the fourth quarter. So we know what he's capable of doing. Does he have that signature comeback win? Does he have that overtime win? Maybe not. But he's made enough plays and he's won enough games in this league where I'm comfortable and confident saying that he's the franchise quarterback of this team. I want him to improve in areas. And again, young quarterback, I believe he will. I think he knows the things he has to improve on. And if he can do that this offseason and going into his career, I think we're in very good hands with him as the QB. But a lot has to get better with him, and a lot has to get better with the coaching staff, with the play calling. Adjustments. Defenses are going to adjust to you. You got to adjust right back to them. And much too often we've seen this season they haven't. To the point in games where they've taken Zach Ertz out of the game, it's like they don't know what to do. So you got to get better at adjusting. Doug's got to get better going forward as being a play caller, as mixing in the run. Again, my wish list for this offseason is getting that bell cow back. I see these offenses having success. They all have the running back. They're all able to run the ball. The Eagles, though, for whatever reason, and part of it maybe is because they don't have that bell cow back. Well, they didn't have it last year, and they won a Super Bowl with it. I get that, but it's like this. It's weird because it always goes in cycles. It's a running league, it's a passing league, it's a running league, it's a passing league. Now you're starting to see it get back into a cycle where the running back becomes very important. Again, look at those teams that are having success. More than not, those teams do have that bell cow back, and they have an explosive type of playmaking running back, and that's something that this team is missing. With all due respect to Adams and Clement and whoever's been in there, even Jay Ajayi, I don't think is the difference maker. People say LeGarrette Blount, they should have had LeGarrette Blount. Yeah, but LeGarrette Blount's not a bell cow, single back. He's had a very good career. He's won many championships with the Patriots and now with the Eagles. He was a big part of this team last year, but LeGarrette Blount's not a bell cow, carry the rock type of back. He's very good in the, he's a leader. He is, and he's good in the short yardage and everything like that, but. Again, this offseason, I want to see them get a difference-making type of running back, whether it's a Lev Bell, whether it's a trade for Shady or another back in the league. Even if you bring in Ingram, if he's a free agent from the Saints, I wouldn't be opposed to that either. But I want an upgrade at running back, and I want Doug Peterson to be able to know how to run the ball. Again, it protects your quarterback, too. If Carson has these back injuries, why are you letting him go back there and pass the ball as many times as he is? And yeah, you can say it's a passing league, but if you have a quarterback has some back issues, maybe you don't want to get him back there passing the ball as often. And you sure as hell don't want to run him on 3rd and 1 on an option play against an aggressive athletic defense. And that's 2 straight weeks they tried the option play with him, and it didn't work either time. And that's not helping the back. Okay? So listen, the play calling has to get better. Doug has to get better. And the quarterback, certainly. I mean, Carson, there's things he has to improve on, and I believe he will. I believe in him, and I believe he will improve on these things. It's a tough blow now. Look, more than likely, unless the back, gets better, we're not going to see him the rest of the season. And it's probably going to be Nicky Six the rest of the way. They still have an outside shot at the playoffs, and like I said before, I'd rather them be in than not, but I don't expect them really to do much even if they make the playoffs this year. But you know what? You still... If there is an outside shot that they make a wild card and get in, I'd rather them get in than the alternative, than to just have nothing to, particularly coming off a Super Bowl year. Do I expect them to do much if they make the playoffs? Probably not. But I'd rather see them in than not. So if they still have a shot, and it comes down to, okay, winning on Sunday night, if Carolina loses or the Vikings lose again, and then, okay, well, this game Sunday night could help. I hope they win. I hope Nick Foles has a great game. I hope they win the game. I always hope the Eagles win every game. I'm there. I'm hoping. I'm rooting this team, whether they winning seasons, losing seasons, whatever. I mean, you're a fan, that's what you do. And I know we were dealt a bad card this season. It just hasn't gone well. It's been very frustrating. It's been very just up and down. But you know what? If there's still a shot at it, hey, we'll see what happens Sunday night against the Rams. Do I expect them to win that game? Probably not. With the fact the Rams are going to be angry off that loss to the Bears. But stranger things have happened. Hey, this team won a game there last season after losing their quarterback, their MVP candidate during the game. They still found a way to win it. So we'll see what happens Sunday night. Hopefully we still have something to play for. Over the rest of this season. Maybe we still have a little excitement left in here, and we'll see how it happens. But anyhow, yeah, another injury to the list, Carson Wentz now with the back spasms. It's just one of those years of the injury. It is what it is. But we'll see how they do going forward. We'll see if this game matters much on Sunday night, and going forward the rest of the season, how things go. All we can do is root for this team and hope for the best. And we'll see what the situation warrants this Sunday night. Again, if Carolina loses again, if Minnesota loses their game, I don't know at the top of my head who these teams are playing, but there's still an outside chance that the Eagles can get in if they can somehow, some way run the tables and hay it, with Foles in there. I mean, again, a short sample size. I mean, he did it last year with them, so it would just be crazy, right? Would it be nuts if they somehow, some way come out of this thing again this year? Oh boy, then all we're ever going to hear is, oh, they should trade Carson, trade him now. We'll see. But anyhow, Eagles Nation, as I said before, and I'll say it again, happy holidays. I know this season hasn't been very happy, but but you know what? If there's still an outside shot at the playoffs, that's all we can hope for. We'll see what happens. We got Nicky Sixx in there. We got the Super Bowl MVP in there at least for this week, and then we'll see going forward. And adjustments have to be made. Changes have to be made this offseason. Decisions have to be made. I don't want to talk about the offseason just yet. Like I've talked about it enough in this vid, but I really don't. There's 3 weeks to go. The season isn't over just yet. We're not mathematically out just yet, so we got to hope for the best. And it's the season of miracles, so you never know, right? All right, everyone. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next vid, probably after the game on Sunday night. Take care. Go Birds, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.